Welcome back to Rustic Grows Farm. I'm Paul and we live on a small farm in Western Australia. We're still doing seeding, so we're just doing another check over of the actual tractor. This morning I've just had a look at the overflow bottle and it is extremely full. So now I've definitely got to check the radiator to make sure that the radiator is full and that the radiator cap is working correctly and sucking the coolant back into the actual radiator. I just ended up lifting the bonnet to check the coolant. The coolant level is slightly down in the radiator, still above the core. So from my experience, this is going to be fine to still use. I just have to keep monitoring the coolant level over the next couple of days and making sure that it holds the same level. This is something that I picked up because I know my equipment. So the best thing that you can do is get familiar with all your equipment, know what's out of the ordinary so you know when something's not right. So this was just a quick visual of looking at the overflow tank and going, no, that's not correct. I was actually going to be a little bit lazy today and not lift the bonnet because of how hard it is to actually lift on this machine. So yeah, knowing your equipment and knowing what is out of the ordinary can pick up on small problems before they become major problems. And also looking at some of the small problems, and you can decide whether you want to spend the money to get them fixed or whether it's something that you can live with. Brad nearly finished cultivating this paddock yesterday. It's just the corners that he leaves for me to finish off. So when we cultivate, we still go around the paddock and we don't actually go back and forwards. So once we've finished, we actually go out the four corners just to make sure that the whole paddock is cultivated. As you'll see as I'm coming back in this corner, you'll see the green patches that haven't actually been ripped up yet, and they are the patches that I'm actually running over now. And yeah, just getting back to knowing your equipment. So with this one, I don't know if you can see, but my gauges on the left hand side aren't working. I've actually got the coolant sensor light come up to say that the coolant level is not correct, but as I've already checked the coolant level, I know that's okay, and now it's come back to system normal. And also the RPM screen is actually damaged there, but these are things that I can actually live with, and I'm not too worried about getting the whole screen replaced, because I know by checking the machine over that everything's pretty much right, and these gauges aren't really going to tell me a lot before something major happens anyway. And the other thing is, if I was really worried about all these gauges not working, the biggest one would be the coolant temperature. I can also get a manual gauge and fit up into the cab, so I can actually read that and not worry about the digital gauges. Fuel level, when you know your machines and stuff like that, then you know to keep the tank full, or just a rough indication of how long that fuel tank's going to last. Another thing is, if you think it's running out of fuel, you can actually stop the tractor when you start having power issues, irregular revving, etc. At least this way you hopefully will stop it soon enough so you don't have to bleed the entire system to get it back up and running. So after I finish this paddock, I'm going to go and fill it up with diesel. Another thing with the fuel cap on this machine, I actually lost it last seeding. I'm hoping to find it in the paddock, but I still haven't come across it yet. So in the meantime, I've got a plastic container going over the top of the fuel cap spout, and a plastic bag going over the top of the actual container. I'll show that to you when I'm about to fill it up with diesel again. And sorry, I just heard a change of tune in the engine, so I'm just hoping that I can get this back out the corner to my actual diesel tank. It seems to be still running okay, not low on power, but yeah, just a different sound in the engine. Might just be that it's working a little bit harder coming out this corner. But yeah, it doesn't seem like there's any issues. But now I'll go back to the actual fuel cap situation. So if you ever lose your fuel cap, do not put rag over the top. I've seen this on a lot of sites, that someone will lose the fuel cap, so they'll chuck rag over the top of the actual stem where the actual cap goes. This mainly to keep dust out. The issue is rag will still let water in, and water is a big no-no in any fuel systems. It can cause a lot of issues and cost you or your employer lots and lots of money to repair the fuel system. And rag can also drop inside the tank and cause blockages and different things to the actual fuel system, and that can also cost a lot of money. Now we'll just pull up to our as you can see, it's just a plastic container with a plastic bag wrapped around it. So, and that's covering up the spout. So this should keep water and dirt, debris out of the actual fuel lines, or out of the fuel system. We like to run a tank on the back of the truck, so that way we don't have to keep taking the tractors back to our main fuel tank. This truck runs a dual battery system, but I still like to start the truck, so at least I'm not going to flatten that second battery while I'm actually using the pump on the back to pull up the tractor. One good thing about having this electric pump is that it's got a auto shut off nozzle, so I can actually step away from the actual fuel pump and tractor for a little bit, and this will actually shut off once the tractor's full. This tractor will take about 200 odd litres, and this is only about a 200 litre tank as well. So I wouldn't want to go away from it for too long, as the fuel tank could actually be empty before I actually get the tank in the actual tractor full. So it just gives me a bit of an opportunity to have a little bit of a walk around as well, just to make sure that there's no other issues that I can see. It's also a good idea to have your tractor running at different times and be out of the cab. At least this way you can actually have a bit of a walk around, have a look for oil leaks that could actually be only happening when it's actually running. So I'm currently just having a look at the points on the actual scarifier. Now it's out of the ground. They are fairly worn. I'm going to have to monitor them to make sure they don't wear down too far. Because if they wear down too far, they start to actually wear the tine, and then they don't actually sit true. As you'll see on this one, it's actually quite badly worn on your right hand side. This one would have been worn down too far at one point and produced uneven wear on the actual tine. So yeah, I'm just going to keep monitoring this, see how we go, because we only got one more paddock to cultivate, and prefer to try and get that done with these set of tips and then change them before next year. You might notice in my tow hitch here, it's actually got a bit of Rio bar actually holding the top of the tow hitch in place. So I think it was, no, it might have been 2 years ago when we were seeding, I actually had the air seeder hooked up, and the actual bolt where this Rio bar is actually broke, and the air seeder bar actually fell off the back. I didn't have any lung bolts at the time, so I ended up just finding a bit of Rio that we had lying around and putting that to get me back up and running. It hasn't been one of my priorities, so it still hasn't been repaired with an actual bolt. And that's probably one of the things that I was saying about knowing what you can live with on your machinery. So that's something that's working at the moment. It hasn't caused me any issues, so it's something that I can live with for the time being. At some point I will replace it back with a bolt, but yeah, it is something that I can continue to use this tractor. So we've only got about a quarter left in this tank of diesel. So if it doesn't shut off, yep, there it just shut off then. And you might have heard a different tune in the actual pump. So you'll have a couple of different tunes. One will be when it automatically shuts off, and it will just be a slight tune because different tune because it is no longer pumping out and it's actually under pressure. Or you'll have a different tune when the actual diesel tank is empty and then it's actually sucking air. So it's just realizing, or actually being more in tune with different machinery or different things that you have on your farm or homestead, and how they actually work, and when they're not working correctly, what different noises or visuals that you can actually see. You can be more in tune on whether you're going to have something fail or if it is failing. I've got some other stuff to do today as well, not just scarifying, so I'll take this truck home and go and get the bike and go and look at some other stuff that's on my list today. So this is just my general farm truck, 2-wheel drive. You normally try and carry a diesel on here. It's got an air compressor, so when we're doing some fencing we can actually use this post driver. And yeah, I've taken it, de-licensed it, so it's just a farm vehicle, and yeah, it serves a good purpose for us. But this morning, as soon as I jumped in, I went to drive off, I actually noticed that the brake light stays on. This is another thing that's kind of unusual for this truck, but I've already checked to make sure that the park brake isn't actually sticking on, so it's just most likely going to be a switch. So I can still utilise this truck without having to play around with the switch to make sure the lights comes off. It's something which I'll have to put down in my tasks. So we have just started using a app called Notion that we actually try and document stuff that we need to do, repairs on machinery, also our livestock numbers, our rainfall. I did look into a lot of the other apps for farm management, but I didn't like the monthly subscription, so I decided to use Notion, which is a free app, and still be able to set up my own databases within that app to make everything work. And I find it's quite good because you can actually use relationship values in the app, and this means that you don't have to keep writing all the information 10 times. So I can actually put all my drenches and vaccines and stuff when I buy them with expiry dates, and then I just have to click on that in the required field and it gives me all the information. It just makes my record keeping a lot easier. So that's something that we've only trialled over the last couple of months, but it also seems to be working fairly well. I also like to put daily tasks in there, and also the other tasks that I need to do. I can put checklists on them, which means I can think about all the different aspects of that task and actually give myself a checklist, so I don't forget the different things I have to do. A lot of farm management is about time management, so knowing roughly how long a task is going to take, or even how much time you can actually allocate to a task. So with farming, you're always going to have curveballs. Doesn't matter what you're doing, you're going to have, you know, a mob of sheep get out or a mob of cows get out and they wreck a fence. A storm which puts trees over fences or wipes out fences like we had 2-3 weeks ago. This just adds extra work, but it's just a matter of prioritising everything, and once you know what's important, then you can allocate your time to actually do those tasks. So another day I'll actually show you through our Notion and actually show you what I actually record, and how I've got it set up. Thank you for watching my video. I hope you liked it. If you have any questions, please put them in the comment section below. If you haven't already, please like and subscribe to our channel, and until next time, have a wonderful day.